playing in the garage, but what's going on? So here's what I'm going to do today. So I have my drag bike here, yes, with my forward-facing exhaust, which I love to advertise. It's cool. Anyway, you see I have my straight chain set up on my drag bike here. So here's the progress I'm trying to make with my drag bike to maintain a 10-second bike. Right now my gear ratio is on a 10-tooth clutch to a 50-tooth axle sprocket with a 16-inch rear tire, not the stock 19. Anyways, so top speed is 64 miles per hour, plus or minus 1-2 miles per hour. But for my 8th mile, I'm only hitting 52 miles per hour, you know, so I need to go quicker. So I'm going to change up some Jackshaft issues, and I've had this project is going to consist of converting my torque converter, which I've used with the belt, but with the belt and on my built motor, too many variables, belt slippage, difference of power ratios, whatever. I don't like it for a built motor. I've done it here on this bike, but just going to give you a quick show how on how I did, because there's a couple tips you should know if you're going to consider going back to the Jackshaft. One of two things. Use this shaft, which was made in China by metric measurements. So I have, you know, made in America type sprockets, you know, from a Jackshaft sprocket in. But if I put it on the Chinese made one, I do have to always take my Dremel and go around the inside there and just kind of smooth that out, you know, by thousandths, 2,000ths, whatever it was, and then it will fit on the metric axle. Or maybe I'll just swap out my bearings and do a longer rod, depending on what I need to do. But that's just one thing you should know. Alright, so I did it. Slides right on now. No problem, only took 3 minutes of grinding, maybe 5. So, going to even this 12-tooth I ordered from OMB, I had to shave that down to adapt to this metric. So, I'll show you my spacing, all that when I'm finished, but a little bit of oil, will slide right on, a little bit of slide right on. So, that's going to be my gearing there. Yeah, just a little chain degreaser and a wire brush. This thing cleaned up less than 2 minutes. And just for you people who want to convert a torque converter to a Jackshaft, or from a Jackshaft to a torque converter, excuse me, it can be done. I've done it. I'm not going to go through it, but it's around the same basics. But you do need to order a different length rod. You'll have to order one. That's why I had that other one. So you'll have to add like 2 more inches for the torque converter to fit, or maybe like another inch or 2. So it can be done. You just have to switch rods and bearings out. Just be aware of all those variables. There has been times on this Baja Warrior or Baja Warriors that I have not had to cut the torque converter backing plate. Some kind of variables from manufacturer, but I had to do it on that one. So I had to do it on that one, and it looks like I'll have to do it there. So since I have it loosely mounted, I'll just draw a line and cut it with my angle grinder, and I'll clean it again.
I've done this before, I've done it plenty of times. It's not gonna hurt anything. So, bottom of the motor, top of the frame.
If the torque converter, you do have to cut this off. For some reason it always fits. And even sometimes you have to grind out or wallow out a little of these locking collars to go on these shafts. So more Dremel grinding, not too long. Or you can use bushings. So I always keep a drawer or bin full of bushing and spacers. So you could use that, and you could just use one, but I prefer to use one over there to hold that in place. Lock collar on each side. You have to add your spacers and the clutch to appropriately allow it to work, and yeah. So you can see with the locking collar, I don't put the set screw in the keyway. I do it here on the shaft, so it holds it there and doesn't damage the keyway. You know, moderately tight. You can see where I've used it plenty of times before. There's little dimples, but some little fine grit sandpaper, and that clears up. It goes right back on. So add your appropriate amount of, bushings now. So I'll probably need a couple bushings once I start lining up. Right. But that's it. So you can see my final configuration. So here's what I use for spacers. There's my 12. A little bushing, then a lock collar, 2 bushings, the 15T, then another lock collar. I'll probably put another lock collar there. Alright, so chains are connected. Obviously I'll tighten up this one with my rear axle adjuster. I'll do that. So reiterate, 10, 15 to a 12 to the 50. And that puts me at about a 6.25 gear ratio. So you'll see the slack here. It doesn't have that chain tensioner like on the Jackshaft, which that would be nice, but you know what? That's enough. It shouldn't pop off. Loose enough to allow, so once it turns, you see it tightens up. So that should work. Tighten it up and we'll see how it does. Worst case scenario is I have to take out a half a link, but honestly, taking out the half a link, it'd be better to come up with a chain tensioner idea like that. But taking out the half a link will just make it too tight. Alright, so we'll do a test run a little bit, but that's how you set it up, how it's done. So, D-O-N-E. Look at her, too slick. Poor boy, Greasy Nail Club, yeah. Well, I haven't done an official time and test, but definitely much better off the line, opposed to the 5-to-1 gear ratio with the straight chain. After a few miles per hour, I can still do power wheelies with this thing, so I'm kind of counting on this to be a 10-second bike. I'll do some test passes probably this weekend, but yeah, I'll do a quick little run. Do a top speed run this weekend, and we'll do some timing and we'll check it out. So, alright, I gotta go do yard work before the old lady gets mad.